Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I'd like to begin a brand new series of videos where I analyse my favourite jazz solos. Now these don't have to be necessarily guitar specific, but since I play guitar, there's probably going to be quite a few guitar solos. But we'll see. So these analyses will be using techniques that I learnt from one of the classes I took during grad school, which we called Charlie Parker class. And what we did in the class was we analysed solos using the techniques discussed in Jerry Coker's book, Elements of the Jazz Language for the Developing Improviser. So there are 21 different techniques discussed in the book, and I will be using a series of coloured lines to annotate my transcriptions so that you can see which technique I'm talking about in which part of the transcription. To save making this video too long, what I'll do is I'll explain the techniques as we go along today. Maybe in the future I'll make a video dedicated to just the techniques themselves, but for today I'll explain as we go along and hopefully you'll be able to keep up with me. So without further ado, let's begin today's video. So the solo I have chosen to analyse today is from the tune Rose Room by the Benny Goodman Sextet featuring Charlie Christian. And the solo is also played by Charlie Christian. Now this tune is found on the album The Genius of the Electric Guitar, which was released in 1987 and is a collection of recordings by the Benny Goodman Sextet featuring Charlie Christian between 1939 and 1941. Now this band heavily featured a lot of the prominent swing musicians of the time, including the likes of Count Basie, Lionel Hampton and Papa Joe Jones. This particular tune features Lionel Hampton on vibes and Fletcher Henderson on piano. I do have my own vinyl copy of the album, and for those of you that haven't ever heard it before, I do highly recommend that you go and listen to it because it is a great way to introduce yourself to swing playing, which is very different from bebop and other later forms of jazz. Charlie Christian has also been described as the musician who was playing bebop before bebop was a thing. So, let's get started with the solo. So we can see in the first measure here we've got 3 green lines. Now these green lines are what we call digital patterns. And what a digital pattern is, it's a short 4 to 8 note cell of notes. So we could have a 1, 2, 3, 5, a 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, etc. You get the picture. And these can be applied to any kind of scale. So what we've got here is we've got an F minor 1, 2, 3, 5. So that's the F, G, A flat and C. So we're skipping the B flat in the scale. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5. And over the B flat 7, the F is the 5th. So we're playing our F minor 1, 2, 3, 5 digital pattern off of the 5th of the chord. And he does that 3 times, resolving to the 13 of the E flat. Now in the second bar we've got a altered dominant figure at the end here, which is signified by the dotted black line. The dotted blue line underneath it signifies the type of altered dominant that he is using, which in this case is a backdoor substitution. So a backdoor substitution is a minor 4 to flat 7 to 1 resolution. But in this case we're not playing the flat 7, we're just playing a D flat minor triad over the E flat. And now this D flat to C with the orange line above it signifies what we call a 7 to 3 resolution. So the D flat is the 7th of E flat. And the C is the 3rd of A flat. Now the red line over the D flat, B and C signifies what we call an enclosure. So the C is what we call being enclosed by the other two notes. So the D flat is a half step above C and the B is a half step below C. Charlie Christian uses this a lot around the third of a chord. And then he finishes off the phrase here with another digital pattern signified by the green line, which is a 3-5-6-1, which is quite a common blues phrase. So moving on to the second line, we start off with another kind of digital pattern. And this is a 9-7-5-3 digital pattern over A flat 7. So we've got B flat, G flat, E flat and C. And the phrase is finished off with a short linear chromaticism, which is signified by the light green line. And this is just notes moving chromatically, use of the chromatic scale. So he comes down a digital pattern into a linear chromaticism. So the yellow line above the entire line here is signifying what we call a sequence. And this is where the player repeats a melodic phrase and changes it ever so slightly. So you can hear on this next phrase, it sounds quite similar to the first one, but it resolves in a different place. And you can see another short linear chromaticism to resolve the phrase to the D flat, the 4 chord. And now there's another linear chromaticism at the end of the phrase leading into the next line, but it's also got a purple line underneath it. And this signifies a specific type of linear chromaticism called Bebop Scale. Now there are 3 kinds of Bebop Scale. There's a major, there's a minor and there's a dominant. In this particular case we're using a major bebop scale which inserts a chromatic note between the 5th and 6th note of the scale. So in D flat major we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is the A flat and the B flat. So we insert a note in between the two. This phrase leading into the third line starts off with another digital pattern, which is this half diminished shape again, leading down to the 6th. So it's a 5-3-1-6. This then leads into another considerably longer linear chromaticism with another bebop scale in the middle. And this particular bebop scale is a minor bebop scale because it uses the major third on a minor chord, which is the F natural there. So we have a long chromatic phrase there leading into the E flat on the A flat 6. And now this phrase on the F7 starts off with another digital pattern, which is the dark green line, which is a 3-5-7-9. It's the opposite of the one we saw earlier. And this phrase then leads into the start of the next line, which includes another digital pattern. And again, it's a 9-7-5-3 over the B flat. Finishing off again, the light green line signifying a linear chromaticism. So in the last bar of this line you can see we have another digital pattern, and this is a 5-3-2-1 digital pattern that starts on the 7th of the A flat major scale. This then leads us into the start of the next phrase, resolving back up to the A flat. And now another digital pattern again, this time starting on the 3rd of the B flat 7, and it's a 1-3-4-5. So the start of the next bar, you can see here we have a linear chromaticism with a bebop scale, And this is the third kind of bebop scale, which is a dominant bebop scale. This is probably the most common form, and it occurs by inserting the major 7 in between the flat 7 and the root. So in a scale context, if we're playing an E flat 7, we'll play a scale that sounds like this. So in the second half of the bar, you can see we have another altered dominant. And the dotted light blue line signifies that this type of altered dominant is a backdoor substitution. And again, over the E flat, we're playing a D flat minor triad. So the next line, we have 2 more sequences, and this first sequence isn't particularly exciting. It's just a repetition between the G flat and a B flat and a C. The second sequence is a little bit more interesting, and there's a little bit more going on. So there's a short linear chromaticism going into the D flat, that's the light green line. So E flat, D natural to D flat is all chromatic. And now we have 2 short digital patterns stacked on top of each other in the next part of the bar. So we have a 5-4-3-1 in F minor. So overlapping that, we have a 5-3-1-6 in D flat. So the start of this next line, we have more of a rhythmic sequence happening here, where he's just pedaling the natural 6 of the D flat minor. This black line at the end of the phrase here signifies what we call change running. Now, change running is where you just simply arpeggiate the chords. So, ignoring the B natural on the A flat 6, we have the 5, 3 and 5 on the A flat, resolving to the root. And then on the F7, we have the 9, the flat 7, the 5, the 3 and the 13. And this resolves to the 9 and flat 7 of the B flat. And now the other 2 green lines here on the F7, we have the 9, 7, 5, 3 digital pattern over the F7. And the dotted light green line is what we call a bar line shift, because it doesn't resolve to the A natural of the F until the 3rd beat. The start of the phrase is in fact on an A flat, which comes from the previous bar. Now the final line here, we have a nice long dark blue line, and this is what we call harmonic generalization. And the reason for this is because he's clearly just playing over A flat dominant, even though we have an E flat to an A flat 6. So as we can see from this solo, there were lots of elements used throughout the solo, and some were used quite a bit more than others. However, there were also quite a few not used. As I said at the beginning of the video, there are 21 different kinds of elements. And in this solo, only 10 of them were used. But now, as a special treat, I would like to perform for you the solo so you can hear all of the elements used in context. So this is Charlie Christian's solo on Rose Room by the Benny Goodman Sextet. very much for watching this video. I do have a number of solos planned to analyse in the future, and I hope to see you all again soon. So thank you very much, take care and goodbye.